Well, hello. My name is Robert Reas, and I'm here at the Denison Pequot-Seapost Nature Center. Ooh, that's windy. Now, we're going to learn a lot about plants today. And plants, as you know, are a type of organism. All living things are organisms, including plants. Now, here at the Nature Center, we have lots and lots of forested trails. And that means there's lots of trees. So I'm here underneath a holly tree just outside the Nature Center's building, and it's a beautiful tree. So I'm not entirely sure what it appears like on the screen because I'm looking at a glare, but I'm doing the best I can. So here we go. Now, plants, like I said, are organisms, and all organisms need to do certain things, right? 5 things in order to be considered organisms. They need to consume something. That's one, meaning the sugar that plants make, nutrients. They need to breathe, okay? They need to change and grow. That's 3. They need to reproduce. And last but not least, they need to respond and adapt to their environment, okay? So, now plants, here we go. I have pulled a whole plant here, okay? Plants have different parts, different ways of doing all those things. I have this plant here. This looks really weird, right? It's actually dead, but you can see, if you look real close, you can see that's the bud. That's where the new growth would have come out, okay? And you can see the branches and the stem, and then all the way down, you can see the roots, the rootlets, okay? Now, all plants pretty much have the same parts, and their parts do different things for them, okay? So we'll start down here. These are the roots, okay? And the roots take up nutrients. Sorry, not nutrients. They take up water from the soil, okay? And the water travels up the stem. Here's the stem. If this was a big tree, we would call that a trunk, right? If it's a little flower or a bush, we might call it a stem, okay? And then these are the branches here. You can see there's big branches, there's little branches. And this is a weird plant because this is actually called winged euonymus or burning bush. And it's got these like wing structures almost coming out of its stem, right? And there's the bud. That bud would be the new growth in the leaves. I have an example of leaves here. These are the leaves of a rhododendron here at the Nature Center, right? Okay. Now the water travels up that stem, out through the branches, goes all the way to the leaves. Okay. What is it going to do with the water once it gets to the leaves? That's a good question. You can see its trail though. You can see all these veins, right? That's where the water's going. And so the water goes into the leaves, and the leaves are catching sunlight, and they're taking in carbon dioxide, and they're transforming. They're putting all that together and transforming it into sugar. Okay? Plants make their own food in a process called photosynthesis. And so they're making sugar. The sugar then travels back down the branch, back down, and feeds the whole rest of the plant through the stem, through the trunk, all the way down to the roots. Okay? Now, just to review, that's how a plant creates nutrients for itself, right? but it's also how it breathes, right? That carbon dioxide, that's how it breathes. It needs the carbon and it releases oxygen. Good thing, because we need the oxygen, right? So that's how it breathes. You can actually see, if you look real close, you can see the bud to this plant as well. This is a rhododendron. Oh, I see. Maybe that's in the way. That's better. All right, see that bud? All right, now different plants will have different types of leaves. Okay, I have this one here. This actually is a hemlock. You can see the leaves are tiny, tiny needle-like leaves. Okay, tiny needle-like leaves. This is from an evergreen hemlock. So they're called evergreens because they don't lose their leaves all at once in the fall, like deciduous trees would. Like an oak tree would lose all its leaves, sometime in November, and then it would grow nice green leaves sometime in the spring, right? But an evergreen tree will hold on to its leaves. This is from a pine tree. This is a white pine. And actually, right? There we go. It's from a white pine. And so the pine tree will actually hold on to its needles or leaves, right? Until it's ready to grow new ones. And then it gradually loses those old leaves, but not all at once in the fall, like a deciduous tree would. So if you want to see it more closely, or just one leaf, that's a bunch of leaves. A white pine has 5 needles to each leaf. That's one leaf. There we go. That's one leaf. So we have the leaves making the sugar. We have the carbon dioxide being taken in. What about how they reproduce? Right? What about how they reproduce? Well, to reproduce, plants, a lot of plants make these. This is a flower. This is a little daffodil. Right? Now, the whole purpose of this flower is to attract a pollinator so it can get pollen from one part of the flower to the other, from one flower to the other flower. Okay? And once it does, it's able to make a seed. And inside here is going to be the seeds. Okay? Now, not all plants work this way. There's some exceptions, like ferns don't work this way, right? But for the most part, plants make seeds. That's how they reproduce. An oak tree would make an acorn, a hickory would make a hickory nut, right? An apple tree, all those seeds inside the apple. That's how it reproduces, right? And it has to make a flower first, and then it can make the seed. So you eat a lot of seeds, believe it or not. And I'm sorry if the camera's shaking. That's because of the wind. But you eat a lot of seeds, believe it or not. In fact, I would say that a lot of what we eat is seeds, like wheat. If you like pizza, you eat seeds because that wheat is really just the seed of a fancy type of grass called wheat. This is another flower. You can see the buds starting to bloom and the full blooms. That's why I picked it. So you see the full bloom and all the petals. You also see the buds, and that's kind of cool. Okay. One last flower here. Now, as I said, that's how it reproduces with the flower, and it's making seeds. Okay? Just about all plants make seeds. It's really cool, actually, in the fall, if you go out. A lot of times you can find a lot of plant seeds, right? between acorns and those little helicopters that maples make, seeds can be a lot of fun. And there's different ways that they disperse them too, like cattails that have really soft seeds that float away right in the breeze. Now the last thing is they adapt and change and grow. There's two things, right? They change and grow. If we were looking at a little acorn and we imagine that acorn slowly developing into a tree, you can imagine how we mean an organism changes and grows over time, right? Over its lifespan. Now, so that's pretty good. But how does a tree, a plant, adapt or respond to its environment? That's a different way of thinking, isn't it? So let's think of it this way. When it's really cold and there isn't enough sunlight to make enough sugar, the plants lose their leaves. Why do they? Or they die down, right? They're still alive. They're just underground. Or or they drop their seeds and they wait for the next. They wait for that seed to grow in the spring. Okay, so it's a new generation each year. There's lots of different ways, but basically they're responding to their environment. Okay, this is a leaf from that holly tree I'm standing under, right? And so it actually holds on to its leaves, but its leaves are really waxy. See that? They're really waxy. They're hard, and they're spiky. Okay, so these are actually really interesting adaptations because now one of the reasons trees lose their leaves is because they need to conserve water. If they can't make sugar, they don't want to lose water. Okay, they don't want to use energy getting the water up into the leaves to have it not make enough sugar, right? So they need to conserve water. So all the evergreen trees, the trees that don't lose their leaves in the fall, have hard or thick, waxy leaves, right? And that helps them keep the water in. Okay? The tree is still basically dormant for the winter. This is also an adaptation in the sense that these spikes, you know what they do for it? Well, you certainly wouldn't put this in a salad because it would hurt. And so essentially that's what it does for it, is it keeps other animals from eating it. Deer won't eat holly. And that's because it's so spiky. It's not because it's poisonous or anything. So that's an adaptation, right? So the tree changes according to its environment. It adapts and it changes, it responds, right? Animals, obviously, their response is much quicker. Like we can put a jacket on when it's cold and things like that. But for plants, they do it a little differently. This rhododendron is another good example because in the cold, when it's really cold, it doesn't lose its leaves, but the leaves curl up and they curl up, right? Because that's their way of closing off those pores and making sure they don't lose any water. And then when it warms up again, the leaves flatten out and open themselves to the sun so they can make as much sugar through photosynthesis as possible. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.